Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the Federation of Credit and Financial Professionals and our technology partner, Credit2Be. I'm Justin Warden, the product specialist for Credit2Be, and I'm here today with the Federation's Operating Board Director, Ken Frisco, as well as today's presenters, Mitch Ross, the Senior VP of Billing Strategy for BillTrust, and Joe Lucas, VP and Chief Credit Officer for SRS Distribution, who will be presenting today's webinar on finding your pot of gold at the end of the invoice-to-cash process. A few items to get out of the way before we begin. If you would like to follow along with the slides during the course of the presentation, they're available for download via the handout section in your side panel. Also, if you do have any questions during the course of the presentation, you can feel free to use the questions function in your side panel. I'll gather all those questions and save them for a Q&A at the end of the webinar. We also will have polling questions during the course of the presentation. They'll pop up directly on your screen. You'll be able to vote, and we can then share the results with you in real time. The last item that we do have is a brief survey that will pop up on your screen as you exit the webinar. It only takes about 30 seconds to fill out, but it gives us a lot of great insight into how we can continue to make our webinars better for you. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ken and let him introduce our speakers.
Okay, thanks, Justin, and welcome, everybody. Just to give you a quick background on our two speakers, Mitch Rose is the Senior VP of Billing Strategy at BillTrust, and he's led the marketing at BillTrust for over 9 years as the company has grown to be a leading player in the payment cycle management. While at BillTrust, Mitch has worked with hundreds of companies to help them improve their invoice-to-cash process, and prior to BillTrust, he held senior marketing roles with Fortune 100 companies including Coke, Mattel, and Warner Lambert. And our second speaker, Joe Lucas, is the Vice President and Chief Credit Officer for SRS Distribution, and he's a seasoned professional with over 25 years of senior leadership experience in the credit and collections field. He is the recipient of the Credit Management Association 2009 Credit Executive of the Year in recognition of his many contributions to the credit profession. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from San Francisco State University and a Master's degree in Business Administration Finance from John F. Kennedy University. So I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mitch and Joe.
Great. Thank you, Ken and Justin. And Joe, thanks for joining us for today's webinar.
Thank you for the invite.
All right. So to dive right in, the topic is finding your pot of gold at the end of the invoice-to-cash process. And as I was preparing, I went and did a little research on where did the myth of the pot of gold come from. And obviously it's very appropriate as we are heading into Thursday, which is St. Patrick's Day, and there's a lot of association with the pot of gold. So there's countless stories, and they're all very different from each other, of where the legend of the pot of gold came from. One of the common myths is that there's almost always a leprechaun involved, creating a lot of mischief as they're guiding the principal characters through the stories to get to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So just look at Joe and I as today's leprechauns full of mischief as we tell this story today. So to jump right into what we're going to talk about today is what's specifically the pot of gold when we talk about invoice-to-cash. And there's a few key areas, and everyone on this call that's involved with accounts receivable is well aware of these. First and foremost, you need a well-run invoice-to-cash process to manage DSO, to ensure you're driving working capital and cash flow for your organization. Another key area is customer satisfaction and making sure you're meeting the needs of your customers. And of course, there's managing the costs of this process, which continue to go up. So what are the areas we're going to tackle today? And again, Joe and I will go back and forth as we talk through today's presentation. But what are the key areas? One is, how do we automate this process to get to the end of the rainbow? What can we do to accelerate getting paid? And finally, how do we drive satisfaction for customers? All of the key areas that are heavily rooted in the invoice-to-cash process. So let's start tackling them one at a time, and the first one is all about automation. And why is that so important today? And what's interesting is if you think about all of the different systems out there that have to work together to drive an invoice-to-cash process, it's changed dramatically over the years. So whether it's EIPP vendor, your bank, integrating with an AP system, a payment processor, a collection system, your ERP, working with a print vendor, a lockbox provider. These are all different systems that touch that process. And what's important is they need to work seamlessly together. Otherwise, you will impact meeting the needs of your customers and driving DSO. So again, that's a key concept today, is for you to think about your own invoice-to-cash, and you may not think of all the different systems, but when you do and you map them out, you'll realize there's lots of different systems, and there needs to be some common threads that run throughout them. So you have transparency into the invoicing, the open balances, the payments, what's been applied, what are the disputes, and those could all clearly be integrated throughout the process. So that's one key area.
And Mitch, in SRS experience, we found that BillTrust ties those together and allows us to have our customers more, as we call it, customer stickiness to us, because of the Cash App underneath the collection system, the ERP being integrated with BillTrust, the lockbox, the print van, obviously you send out our invoices and our statements, but that all helps us to stay sticky to the customer.
Yeah, and that's a key piece, is making sure they're customer facing. And you know, we specifically broke out Cash App, which is good that Joe mentioned. You know, no matter how you do Cash App, there are distinct phases in that process that need to be automated. You know, whether the first thing is you have to capture the inbound payments, the remittance data, which often comes separate. You have to extract that data and digitize it, match it up, handle the exceptions, apply it back in your system. And again, it's a really good idea to break out all those steps and then make sure you are putting in the right level of automation. There's many different ways to do it to tackle that problem. But again, the key thing in Invoice-to-Cash is understand all these different systems, how they have to work together, and have a roadmap in place within your company to automate that. The second key area, which is near and dear, is all about acceleration. You know, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is getting paid, and it's getting paid on time and being able to apply that, and it all comes to acceleration. And we do find when you think about Invoice-to-Cash, you don't often think of, hey, sending the invoices, having the payment systems, applying, and the impact it could have on DSO, but there are 5 key areas that we're going to talk about where there are impacts. So the first one is the timing of invoice delivery. You know, more and more, the United States Postal Service, delivery times continue to slow down. And I know we all want to move to electronic, but in many cases, we're still reliant on the delivery of those invoices by paper. And you need to have the systems in place within your company to get those invoices to your customers as fast as possible. So for example, if you're printing and mailing from one location across North America, it could take multiple days to get to your customers versus if you could do distributed print and mail from multiple locations. If you're printing and mailing 6 days a week versus 5 days a week, it could have an impact on how fast you're getting your invoices to your customers. And the faster you get it to your customers, the faster it will go through their accounts payable process, helping you get paid on time. More important than even the presentment is the payments and how fast those payments come back. So it's more important than ever for your organizations to have multiple ways to receive payments electronically, whether that's online portals, whether that's through a bank sites, whether you have the cash application systems in place. So you embrace ACH payments and wire payments that are coming in electronically and can handle those efficiently. So again, the timing of invoice delivery and setting up to get those payments back faster. A third key area has to do with disputes and short pays. So for your customers, the faster you have visibility into the invoices that are going to be disputed or short paid, the faster your collection teams can address those and handle those. And again, we're going to talk more about solutions to that. But the next key area, which is self-serve, really ties into that a lot. The more you have a robust self-serve portal where your customers can do business with you, where you're creating a digital relationship with your customers, the more often they will communicate their disputes and communicate their short pays to you, and you could address them more efficiently. And then the final area is cash application. And again, we talked about that already. Try to achieve the highest hit rate so you can post same day. I'm going to pause for a second, and Joe, if you could chime in and talk this through as well.
I'd like to talk a couple things. First, the timing of the invoice delivering. We've actually changed our system around to make the mail delivery slower and our electronic faster. But also, for anybody that's in the construction business, you know that the customers have to get their draws in on the 25th so they can be paid by the 10th of the following month. And with the self-service, the customer can go in and obtain his own invoice and be able to present that to the GC so he can make sure he gets paid and subsequently you get paid. On the cash application and timing process, we're up and around the 90% hit rate, which allows the checks that are much more labor intensive to be worked thoroughly, and let the easy ones just go through the system and just apply, and everything's taken care of on an exact penny match process. So those are all we found very labor saving for us.
Good. Thanks, Joe. So that's a key area. We've talked about acceleration a little bit, and we'll keep going along. So, but we have our first poll tip question. Is that correct, Justin?
Yes. So I'm going to launch our polling question now. Everyone should be able to see it on their screen. That question is, what is the most important metric for invoice-to-cash? The choices we have are reducing DSO / improving cash flow, closing your books on time, minimizing matching errors, lowering invoice costs, or speeding invoice delivery. So everyone is able to vote right now at this time. You just click on whichever of the answers you believe to be correct. I'm going to give everyone a chance to vote, make sure we get all of those results in, and once we do get the majority of the results, I will share the answers accordingly. All right, it looks like I've got the majority of them in. I'll give it one more second just in case there's any last-minute people. I'll close it and share. So as we can see, we've got 81% saying reducing DSO or improving cash flow is the most important, 11% saying minimizing matching errors, and 7% saying speeding invoice delivery.
Good, and there is definitely some parallels. So for sure, when it comes to accelerating, DSO is obviously a key metric, and we've done similar research. It was among enterprise companies, senior level executives, asking them what are some of the key metrics, and DSO, cash flow, things related to that were clearly towards the top. Some of these were controllers and CFOs, so closing the books became very important to them, and then matching errors. But clearly, we could see that there are some parallels in those answers. Joe, for you at SRS, when you talk about invoice-to-cash, I know you look at many other metrics beyond DSO. Can you spend a minute and talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We measure a number of different things. We measure, not only do we measure the invoice-to-cash cycle, we also obviously measure the DSO, the 60+, the percentage cash collections of percentage of prior month, credit application processes, the number of job accounts we set up. Again, I'm in the construction business, so that's very important. And another key one is the ineligible AR, which is, you know, how much money you can borrow against your bank line. And we noticed that when we help accelerate the invoicing process to our customers, it again helps us collect our cash faster and subsequently drives that down, along with the standard bank bad debt and credit lines, etc. But those are some of the things we do, and we've actually seen improvement when we applied the bill trust with the invoicing process.
And we've seen that as well. We did a research study last year asking companies that have automated invoice-to-cash what kind of reduction they saw. And across 84% of the companies that had automated had seen a DSO reduction ranging anywhere from 1 to 13 days. As you know on the call, depending on their company, depending on their situation, depending on many different variables, the DSO reduction can certainly vary. But nonetheless, the most important thing is there is a clear correlation in that area. And for sure, one of the backbones of driving DSO definitely has to do with electronic payments and making sure your organization is set up to receive electronic payments, whether they're coming through an online portal, whether they're paid by ACH with remittance, credit card, all of those. There's a direct correlation between getting those payments electronically and driving those and a reduction in the number of days. So as you can see on this slide, there are many advantages to electronic payments. So one of the key messages in the pot of gold is certainly make sure you as an organization are really taking electronic payments seriously, have a robust plan to embrace them, encourage them, and have the systems in place to apply them when they do come in. One of the key parts of electronic payments is certainly a self-serve portal where your customers can go to do business with you electronically, view, pay, download bills into their accounting packages. And Joe, I know for an EIPP site is key for you at SRS. If you want to spend a minute and just talk about the EIPP site at SRS.
Yeah, that's a fantastic system. It allows our customers to, again, obtain their invoices as a self-service, but even more importantly, from a credit standpoint, to pay us online. So, again, it helps that whole process, that whole timing. It's the check's not in the mail. You know, if you're going to use checks, we also use checks. We'll take money any way we can get it, but we really enjoy the fact that we can just have it paid right online. We see it immediate, or we see it within the next day, and we know it's paid and it's gone. It's great for the credit managers that are looking for the month-end push. You're trying to collect that last bit of money, tell them pay right online, it's done. So we also use it, my credit managers, I've got 9 regional credit managers across the United States. They find this tool very useful when they're trying to do some collection calls. They say, hey, you know what, we can't get you the invoice. Don't worry, we can either send it, you can either get it yourself or we can get it right there for you. So it just accelerates the whole speed. It's shortened the time frame from the invoice to when you get the cash.
So we talked about there were 3 key areas. We've talked about automation acceleration. We're going to talk about satisfaction, and then Joe's going to go into more detail about some of the key practices they've done at SRS. In terms of satisfaction, one of the key things we did in a research study recently was ask respondents how they think about invoicing in terms of customer satisfaction. And we had asked them the same question in 2014. In 2014, a resounding 89% said that they do see invoicing as part of their customer satisfaction strategy. I can share with you, I've been with Billtrust for 9 years. We asked this question, gosh, it was probably back in 2009, and it was closer to 50% said that it was a key component of customer satisfaction. So now in 2015, it's grown to 94%. And there's a big reason that is happening. As many of you on this call know, more and more of your customers want to do business with you differently. They want you to integrate with their AP systems. They want to pay you with purchase cards, or they want to have a self-serve portal, or they have all of these different ways, and you need to have more flexibility. So I think it's become more front and center for credit teams and accounts receivable teams to recognize the important role invoicing plays in this area. And if you think about it, and in terms of meeting buyers' expectations, there are lots of different things that do go into it. Obviously, they expect to get the bills on time and have them be accurate. They certainly want them to be easy to read. They want them to be easy to pay. And the problem we have today from an accounts receivable side is different companies have different definitions of easy to pay. One company may mean they want to pay through a bank, another one through an online portal, another one by ACH. So you understand that creates lots of challenges. If they have disputes, they want them to be easy to resolve. And again, they want flexibility in terms of how they get presented with the invoices. So this kind of flexibility is really important. And Joe, I don't know for you if you want to spend a second and talk about for SRS, your customer base and how you think about the invoicing process with them.
Yeah, the key thing is what I find is the accuracy, because it allows us, if there is a dispute or there is a problem, we can get to it much quicker than waiting for when the remittance comes in. We found that when the customer has an invoice that's an issue or there's a pricing error, etc., they will then notify us much sooner than they would if they just waited for the end of the month timing. Again, back to the on time. That's crucial in the construction business for their month ends, for them to get their paperwork together and their release and liens, etc., so they can place their invoice to their GC so they can get paid. It's very easy to read, and it's great easy to pay. Again, we can just tell them, send it, get on Bill Trust. You have your setup. You can just pay us that way. Then our customers love that. A lot of our customers, we have a lot of small, medium-sized customers, and the small guys, they can pay us at 24/7. And on the delivery method, we've gone on a large push here to get it to go to more to the email. We've noticed that our customer base is changing. There's more millennials in it, and with that, they don't want the paper invoices. They want to do everything off their phone. They want to be able to pay off their phone. They want to see the invoice off their phone, etc. So that's been a crucial part for us.
Good. Thanks, Joe.
Uh-huh.
So in the end, just think about that. Like Joe said, I think one of the key points, and I think most of you on this call probably feel this way, is you're selling into a diverse customer base, some very large customers, some mid-sized, some small. You're going to approach 3 very different ways they want to do business with you. And like Joe said, having that flexibility is really an important part of it. So with that, Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you, and maybe you could talk through a little bit more with SRS and talk a little bit more about your story.
Thanks, Mitch. When we get to the bullpenning, this is a process where we amalgamate the bills, and then we were sending them out twice a month, and we just recently moved that to, these are our paper invoices, to every 7 days. Again, we're trying to move them more to electronic. Just to give you a rough idea, we do approximately 1.2 million invoices per year, or about 100,000 per month. So when we did that, just making that slight change, we looks like we're going to save around $41,000. So, you know, as you're going to talk to your CFO or your president or whoever who you directly report to, when you talk about e-invoicing, the cost is significantly less, and you can, you know, actually go on to the like we did. We said we're going to go more to a green concept, trying to help the environment, not have so much waste, not so much paper. We did find that there are customers that are the older generation, and I'm one of them, that wants that piece of paper. So there's sometimes we run into a little bit of a problem trying to get them to flip over. But we've done things specifically where we've offered them, if they'll take it off of the paper invoice to go to the electronics, we'll give them $100. Just flat out, here's a $100 gift card. One of our customers didn't want that. He wanted to go golfing, so my regional credit manager took him golfing. One customer said, you know, well, now you're shifting me to take care of your ink and paper. So we'll buy you the ink and paper. It was still cost savings to us. So there's ways to handle the objection of going from paper to electronic. But again, you can see right there, just by shifting it, we were going to save $41,000, and we're probably going to shift it over again to twice a month to paper invoices. Meanwhile, they're getting their electronic invoices at any time.
Good,
Next
thanks, Joe. Sure, and let me just add for those on the call, bullpenning is an interesting concept, and what Joe was saying, which is a really important thing to know, is you want to mitigate the cost of the USPS as much as possible. Rates are going up. Obviously, mail times are slowing. Bullpenning is a tool that lets you do it. Everybody does batching for the most part, where you make sure if you have an invoice going to the same customer, you could put multiple invoices in an envelope. Bullpenning pushes that further and lets you set very sophisticated rules so that you could hold an invoice for multiple days before you send it out until it hits thresholds that you could define. The threshold could be don't send it until the dollar value is above $200 or the dollar value is above $500. Now in Joe's case, because their organization is very committed to moving their customers to electronic, he's taken a very aggressive stance on customers that want to receive bills by paper, and that's been his approach. Now, Joe, I do have a challenging question for you on this. If you're holding invoices for 7 days, couldn't that potentially impact your DSO?
It has not yet, and what we assume is that if they do need it, if they're online and they need that for end of month or things on those lines, they can actually go in and get their own. So that's what we told them. That's, so the RCMs, my regional credit managers advised them, look, you're not going to get your paper one because of the slowness of the mail, etc. So we moved it from, we were doing it twice a week now to once a week, and then now we're probably going to go to twice a month. We've looked at it and said, we've got, I think, almost 60% utilization onto e-billing, and now we want to obviously move that up in the 80% level. And again, when it's on the e-billing, it's instantaneous. The emails go out. It helps them. But no, we have not seen any increase in our DSO, nor have we seen any increase in on our monthly cash report, which is even keyer. So we've not seen any slow up in our daily cash.
Good. No, that makes sense. Good. So I know we talked about the EIPP portal earlier. Is there anything else you wanted to add on this one?
The ease of use. This is so easy to use. Our customers, it's very simplistic. If they can run a mouse, they can run this system.
Good. And I'll share a story. Recently, I was at a meeting with a client, and they talked about their corporate. They were a large electrical distributor. Their overarching corporate strategy was to create a digital relationship with their customers, and to do that, they've made big investments in an upfront e-commerce site, so to make it easier for their customers to do business with them. But they view invoicing and their EIPP portal as a critical component of creating an ongoing digital relationship to make it easier to do business with their customers. So with Joe, when he talks about ease of use, I think it's very important to look at it within that context as well.
Yep. Now you can see from the electronic payments how we've changed dramatically from just as last year, trying to, again, move customers to that level and get them onto the e-adoption rate. This is just, you can see back in January last year, I challenged my regional credit managers to start working with our customers both on electronic payments and on electronic invoicing. And you can see just the growth rate. We are a seasonal business, so you can see September, October, that's about our top of our season, and then even in December, just compare December 15 to January 15, just the exponential growth we've had.
Good. All right, Justin, back to you.
All right, so we're going to launch our second polling question for everyone. That question is, how are your invoices currently being sent? So those choices are print, e-bill, email, or fax. We'll again give everyone a chance now. You guys are able to vote in real time. We will share all of the results of your responses shortly. While we are waiting for the rest of the responses to come in, I do just want to remind everyone that we will have a brief survey that pops up as you exit the webinar. Again, it really only takes about 30 seconds to fill out, but it helps us to continue to improve our webinars for you. All right, looks like I've got the majority of people have voted here, so I'll close and share. Looks like we've got 28% of people having their invoices sent via print, 12% via email, and 60% via email.
Good. And that's showing good progress. So, and this is where Joe is today. Joe is at 58%, continuing to drive that number. So the 58% is a combination of email, online, a little bit of fax, and the rest is print. But obviously the goal is to suppress paper and continue to drive that electronic number.
Yep, we are trying to drive that print number out, and it just makes so much common sense with regards to slowness in the mail, you know. But there are some hardcore people they want to have that piece of paper.
Good.
So our goal is to hit around. We want to get to around 80%.
All right, Joe. Can you talk through the next few slides and some of the ways you were looking at getting there?
Yeah, this is where BillTrust has helped us dramatically. They've helped us with a plan. They get us the data constantly on the top 100 customers. The key thing I think here is not only do you have to do this, but you have to train your own sales force. BillTrust was we have about 350 sales reps on the field, out in the field, and we had 5 webinars where it was mandatory for them to get on and get the training on BillTrust. So I'll just tell a quick story. I was out with the customers. I was out with a sales rep, and we were at a customer's, and I kept hearing, I'm having this problem with the invoicing, this problem with the invoicing, this problem with the invoicing. And I finally said, well, are you on our BillTrust system? And they looked at me and said, you guys have BillTrust? That's the same as your competitor. And it's a big competitor of ours. I said, yep, it's the same one they have. So that's when I came up with the idea to have everybody trained, specifically the sales force, and including our branch managers and district managers, so they can talk to it. It's not that difficult. It's they can actually sign them up if they need to in the field. We prefer them not to, because they do have our TMs have a tendency not to be detailed oriented. But the key is to have them trained so they can speak to it, handle the objections right then and there, and then get somebody to get them on the system. Once they get on the system, I would say less than 1% will ever not use it. It's amazing. And again, BillTrust has been very helpful in all their email marketing. They add flyers for us in the invoices saying that we're going green. They do a lot of good things for us. And you can see, you go back one slide, I think. We are going green. This is a flyer we put together. Oh, maybe it's forward. I'm sorry, I'm just out of order. My bad. Where they gave us the we're going green starting April 24th, and we're constantly trying to do that, trying to say this is what we're trying to do, just to help the environment. At the same time, it saves us money.
Great. Joe, one other strategy for driving electronic adoption that you referenced is that top paper customer. So is this still something you focus on, having a hit list here?
We have the hit list. My regional credit managers see it. We send it out to them. But you can see, I don't know if you kind of remember this, Mitch, but that top number used to be in the thousands. So, and that top one is one we've gone to a couple different times. But if you look at the rest of them, the total paper bills, they go down dramatically from what they were before. They were thousands. The top one was thousands. The second one was, up in the thousands. And, the top 10 probably represented probably 10,000 invoices, easy. And now, we're in the, it drops dramatically. What's the bottom one's 59 invoices per month. So just to give you a rough idea.
So, and we're going to move forward in a sec. The big thing for folks on the call is work on having the electronic channels, then make sure you train your sales team. That is something I've seen a lot of organizations do very successfully, like SRS. When you have your branch managers, your customer service managers, your sales team, they usually love having things like this they could talk to their customers about. Have a target list like Joe talked about, I think is really important. And making sure, when you're sending invoices to your customers or messages, integrate in different kinds of messages to drive adoption, and you could have lots of success. So I think those are some good lessons, Joe. Thanks.
And they also, with BillTrust, you guys also do a lot of our own marketing for us through the BillTrust site. So, and the other thing, just make sure everybody has their own FAB statement. What's the feature, the advantage, and benefit of doing this? And as long as they have those 3 key points that they can discuss to, it's an easy sell. And the other thing is just the ROI on it. Just cost the ROI for you as a consumer, and if you're on a print system now, how much you can save, the reduction of cost.
Right. Good. So this, I think, summarizes a lot of those key points. Joe, there's one area you didn't necessarily hit on as we were talking, which is tracking the results. You talk a little bit at SRS how you do that. Track the different accounts receivable overall, the different metrics, and then the ones like e-adoption and how those are being tracked.
Yeah, we get a monthly report that we send out, just showing what the what our new levels are, and again, the key one we do is the top 100 bill customers, because that's where we think we're going to get the most bang for our buck, and getting them off of the paper onto e-adoption, that's the key. Once you get them off the paper, and once they get used to it, occasionally we'll have one where it comes back, says that the email wasn't correct. We send it out. We verify that we get the correct invoice. People change. Things happen. But again, less than 1% that start this ever come off. So it's a process to get them out of the paper mode into the e-adoption mode, and we track it all. We track all that data and then just report on it. So.
Good. And Joe, and this, I don't want you to make this at all about BillTrust. So talk more in general. If you're an organization and you want to make an investment in automating your Invoice-to-Cash, and you do successfully automate the process, no matter how you're going to do it, what are some of the results you could achieve? And then you could talk more specifically about SRS and maybe some of the results you achieved.
Sure. Obviously the reduction of costs is just alone in your invoicing process. Just going from a paper process to an e-adoption. It's basically what it stamps now, 40-some cents plus the envelope, etc. So it's probably about 65 cents to send an invoice out, versus electronically it's less than a cent. So right there's a huge cost and saving. We did see a DSO improvement. We saw about 2 days. Depending on your size of your receivable, you can calculate that yourself. Just by going into this process, we saw just a 2 to 3 day DSO. So if you're running a 45-day DSO, you can drop it down to 42, and your CFO will love you because it'll keep that cash going faster. The adoption growth, that's the one we're working on now. We're trying to get our customers off of the paper onto the customer satisfaction. Again, back to the construction business, they can get that information at any time, 24/7. They like the portal. It's easy to use, and they can pay you via the portal. So if you got a big job and you're holding up an order saying, hey, we're looking for the payment, they can pay you right there. Then you can go ahead and let the order go through. So it can even help. You can argue can help the sale of the growth sales. The ROI, I believe it's a relatively inexpensive, or short period of time for the return on the investment. Just on your cash flow, dropping your DSO by a couple days, and the increased sales. Specifically with BillTrust, when I came here, they were already on, SRS was already using BillTrust, but we weren't using it to our maximum advantage. And so last 3 years, we've been trying to do all the things to get the best out of it. The BillTrust people are very easy to work with and very, very, very helpful. If we're struggling with an idea, we can send it to Bill Trust. They do this for thousands of customers or their client base, so they can help us with other ideas that we hadn't even thought of. They've helped us with the marketing on the going green. Again, they helped me with all the TMs, or what we call TMs, territory managers, on the education portion of it. The DSO speaks for itself. They've been very instrumental with me trying to drive the e-adoption. So overall, you know, both sides of it, whether you talk Bill Trust or somebody else, these are all things that can help you as a credit manager go talk to your CFO or your president on how you add value to the team. Because we all know we're called the sales prevention department. Here's how you can say, no, we're helping with sales.
Good. Thanks, Joe. So I think, Justin, we could move to if there's any questions. And I do want to emphasize in general, I do appreciate Joe and all the stuff he's saying about Bill Trust, but I do want the takeaway to be that whether you do this yourself or no matter how you're going to do it, there are significant opportunities in Invoice-to-Cash. And this is something that could be tackled in many different ways to improve getting paid faster. You know, ultimately it's about automating and accelerating. So with that, I don't know if there are any questions, Justin, but let me know.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions in here. If anyone does want to include any additional questions, you can just feel free to open up the question section in your side panel, and we'll be sure to pose them to our presenters. The first question that we have here is, what would you say would be one of the best first steps or first things that you could do if you want to start automation?
Joe, you're a technology geek. I'll leave that for you.
Well, I would say first thing you have to do is map out your processes you currently have, number one, and then two, take the low-hanging fruit. Is it you want to go to invoicing? I mean, if you're a paper now, you know, what do you want to do, and take that low-hanging fruit. I'd also get your sales reps involved, because they're the ones that are going to sell it for you. If you don't have them involved, so I would put a group together of operations, sales, and yourself, credit, to come up with, and Cash App, excuse me, because they also going to want to be involved on what do they want out of it. So one, low-hanging fruit, two, map out your processes, and three, make sure you get everybody involved, and you should have a successful launch.
Yeah, and that is a good question. I agree with mapping it out. You know, I have found when you map it out, the next thing is to identify what are the biggest areas of pain, and this will vary by company, but we see some companies where the largest area of pain that they're feeling is their customers that want to do them to use accounts payable portals like systems, like whether it's Ariba or Tungsten or Avid Exchange, and you know the challenges some of the sellers have, the accounts receivables groups, to get the information into those portals. Another pain that might be very acute could be around the cash application process. If a lot of payments are coming in electronically, but the remittance is separate, and the challenges that might pose to a company, or if you have very low electronic adoption. So I think a good first step is mapping it out and then saying where are we feeling the deepest level of pain that we want to solve.
Okay, the next question we have here is, are you aware of any tracking system for customers who are either not interested in automation or electronic billing, or simply do not have emails at this time?
We actually, when SRS sets up an account, we have a marketing sheet, and on that marketing sheet has the email addresses. So we actually put the email into our system. But we find very few don't have email addresses anymore. When I came here 6 years ago, I would say probably 30–40% of our customer base did not. But now I would say that's less than 10%. So I don't know if that answers your question or if that helps you. I do not know of a system.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, The key, and I'm not sure this was the intent, but it's all about flexibility. The most important thing for a business is they sell into a diverse customer base that all want to do business with them differently, and having a way to understand what their preferences are by simply asking them, and then having the ability to meet those preferences is really what's key.
All right, great. The next question is, how do electronic systems handle short pays? Can the customer do something like short pay an invoice by selecting a reason code or something along those lines?
Well, in our Cash App system, we're exact penny match. So again, we're not on the Bill Trust system. This is our own system. So when the invoice comes in, it comes in with a let's say it's a $100 invoice and they pay $90. So the system will not automatically acknowledge it for the exact penny match and clear the invoice off. So it'll come off in a report, and the report then can go back and reviewed. So what the short pay is. So again, we're up in the 85% hit rate area. So it only leaves 15% for our Cash App to handle, and those are the exceptions that they have to handle. So reports generated from that. You can go back in then, as we actually do it on the credit memo side. When a credit memo is issued, we put a reason code in there, and then we can go back and analyze the reason codes on what we're finding the majority of the credit memos are, and then go back and take corrective action there. So there you get to a root cause at that point in time.
Yeah, and I think with this question too, the person was asking, does the customer have a way to self-serve as well and communicate short pays? So the answer is a good EIPP portal that you put in place should make it easy for your customers to go online, make a payment. If they're short paying, select from a reason code. In some cases, if you're an industry that has complex industry with multiple line items, like typically in the food industry, maybe even have the ability to dispute at the line item level. But a self-serve portal should allow that to happen as well.
Hey, Joe, this is Ken. One quick question. Since customers are paying you electronically, that eliminates the mail and the bank float. Have they come back to you and requested cash discounts or price reductions for adopting that kind of system?
Have not experienced that.
Okay.
So we have our terms are set up. I mean, we have industrial terms. We said to our industry, but we do have a cash discount already involved in our terms. So we've not seen any. We want a longer discount period.
Or additional discount.
Correct. We've not seen that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You mentioned you track your reports, the results, and you send that report to your management team every month?
Oh yes. Actually, there's about 15 reports go out monthly, and then I actually put a little parochial here. I put a recap, and I call it my report card. It's the credit team's report card that goes to the chairman of the board. I report to the president, so it goes to the president, chairman of the board, and all the VPs and all the general managers and all the branch managers. So we put a report card together which has got all the statistics. It's about a 70, 80-page report that goes out right about late November, early December, because our fiscal year is October. And I get requested about right at the end of November from the chairman where the report card is. So he likes seeing that data. We put the Bill Trust data in there also. That's one of the things that goes into that report card. So yeah, it's all senior management, just about all levels of management sees it.
Okay.
And on the monthly basis, on the Bill Trust information, and that also goes out to all the senior management.
All right, great. The next question we have is, what would you say would be the biggest takeaway or piece of advice that you could give around automating?
I'll take this one. Have everybody involved and have a solid plan, and then continually to keep more. It's just not a credit function. It's just not an AP function. But make sure your sales team or your operation team, they're involved. after we involved and engaged the territory managers, our success rate for cash or the exception, e-payments, and exception went up dramatically.
All right, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think with that we can wrap the webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for today's presentation. I'd also like to thank Mitch and Joe for taking time out of their day to present to us here at the Federation of Credit. With that, we'd like to shut down the webinar, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.